What's up, everyone? This is Christian Duke from StrengthAddicts.com, brought to you courtesy of IronMagLabs.com, your go-to source for all your bodybuilding and fitness supplements. Also, be sure to check us out on Facebook at Armwrestling Strength Addicts. Today, I'm pleased to have with me Florida State Armwrestling champion Chance Shaw. How are you today?
Good, how are you?
Great. Now, I first heard you through my good friend Big Frank Buleski, who recently took on Devin Larratt, WAL champion, at the Arm Wrestling Super Match at the Buffalo Fitness Expo. And Frank had nothing but good things to say about you. And we'll get into what Devin had to say, which is interesting to say the least. But talk to us a little bit about you. I mean, you're a Florida State champion, though. You look very youthful. So talk to us about your introduction into arm wrestling and how you got that really cool title.
Right, so I started arm wrestling when I was about 16 years old. I went to a Europa, a fitness expo here in Orlando. And there was an arm wrestling event, and he liked it. He won. He ended up winning amateur, so we got a hold of a local team, and I started training, and I fell in love with it. So about, February 2016, I won a Florida State event and got a Florida title, and then from then I've just been calling out basically everybody within 20 pounds of my weight class, trying to prove myself to be the best in Florida.
That's awesome. And again, 19 years of age today. And one of the things I wanted to ask you, maybe you could clarify a little bit for me, is that you are a pro arm wrestler. And I know that there's a little bit of debate as far as to what that means. What does it mean to you, to Chance Shaw? What does it mean to be a pro arm wrestler?
Right. In my opinion, you start to pull the pro class once you have started kind of dominating the amateur class. Once you can go around, compete 3 or 4 events, and you just completely dominate your amateur class, that's when you start to pull a pro class. Now, in my opinion, you also become a pro once you start placing in 10 to 12 minimum people. If you're placing top 3 consistently, that's, in my opinion, when you become a pro in the sport.
Gotcha. And, you know, what I find interesting, too, is your age. Again, you know, when I interviewed WAL champion Devin Larratt, one of the things, you know, that he did, you know, when I mentioned that, you know, because, you know, Dave Chafee and yourself and other, you know, I would say pretty influential people in arm wrestling had strong opinions about Big Frank, you know, going in against the best arm wrestler in the world. I don't know if it was because you were taking a side or what, but, you know, he dismissed you a little bit there because of your age. Do you find that your age is helpful to you in the sense that maybe your competition underestimates you, or do you think Devin was just, you know, having a little fun with you? What do you think?
No, absolutely. I mean, I get underestimated all the time, you know, just some 19-year-old kid who's only been in the sport a couple of years, you know, why do I need to take him serious? But, you know, I use that to my advantage. If I show up to a super match and you take, not going to be a good day for you. And I've proven that time. But, you know, I think Devin was just trying to have a little bit of fun and take some shots at me while he still can before I catch up. But
Absolutely. Now, one of the things I've noticed about Devin and many different arm wrestling champions and top-tier arm wrestling competitors is that, you know, especially for exhibition matches, they will arm wrestle in different weight classes. Is that fair? I mean, in other words, like, I mean, for an exhibition, maybe it's okay, but for an actual meet, is it advisable for someone to say arm wrestle with someone maybe 1, 2, or 3 weight classes above them?
It all depends athlete to athlete and the competition around you. If you're going to go to a really large event with 30, 40, 50 people in your class, definitely pull your weight class. If you're going to go to a smaller local event and there's only a few people in your weight class, you know, absolutely pull a weight class up. You know, I've been pulling a weight class up now for like a year just to kind of get heavier competition. So I think, should you pull a weight class or 2 or 3 up? It just depends on the competition in your area and the level of athlete that you are.
Now, is it safe to say that if you lose to someone 2 or 3 weight classes below you, that is even a greater humiliation, or is it just whatever? I mean, I know I probably know the answer to that, but I mean, I want to know what you think.
In my opinion, I would rather lose to an elite level puller in a lighter weight class than a mediocre puller in a heavier weight class. I recently took a match with Justin Bishop. He's a bad dude here in the Southeast. He usually pulls 165. I ended up losing 2-1. That loss I'm more proud of than beating someone, 2 weight classes above me that's mediocre.
Now, from what we discussed before we started the interview, you're primarily a right-handed arm wrestler now,
Yes.
but initially you were right and left. Can you talk about a little bit about that? Partially why you only compete with right, and also the versatility aspect. Is it common for arm wrestlers to be good with both arms, or more so with one?
Okay, so yes, I started left and right. The reason I had to stop doing left is a few different injuries. I had a wrist injury, so I can't really protect my hand left-handed. When I was at Worlds last year competing for Team US, my tendon got pulled in my elbow, so I'm trying to lay off of the left and rehab it a little bit until it's healthy and I'll start training again. It is pretty common for most arm wrestlers to pull both arms as long as they stay injury free. Um, a lot of the times when you see someone who's really dominant with one arm, that's because they got injured with their opposite arm and now they only train one arm. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Now, one of the things I've noticed with arm wrestling, not so much with bodybuilding, StrengthAddicts.com does a lot of bodybuilding, but I'm really hoping to get into arm wrestling. And again, that super match between Big Frank and Devin Larratt was perfect because I think it's just going to bring a ton of fans from bodybuilding and fitness to arm wrestling.
Right.
And one of the things that I'm doing with this group, that we're doing with this group, with Arm Wrestling Strength Addicts, it's just another Facebook group, but I'm hoping to bring, I shouldn't say it's just another Facebook group, but it sort of is, because I'm just trying to bring more fans to bodybuilding. To bodybuilding, there you go, slip, to arm wrestling from bodybuilding. And you were huge with that. I mean, you've brought in so many people, and even before we started this interview, you had said that you're going to try to recommend some people for me to interview, because for me, this is the hands that Devin hates. For me, it's very important to interview the right people and give exposure to the right people that are really interested in growing the sport of arm wrestling. And one of the things that I've noticed in the very, very little bit amount of time that I've had exposure to the sport is that, like powerlifting, for example, teams are very important. Talk to us about the team that you're with and how you got into it.
So right now, I'm kind of starting my own team in arm wrestling.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, with a few local guys. Craig Sublair is my main training partner. He's out of Ormond Beach, Florida. So we try to practice about 1 to 2 times a week. But initially I started out with Team Orlando, Brandon Morris, Artem Taranenko. They initially started training. But it's important when you first get into the sport to get a hold of the closest team to you and train with them. They're going to be able to show you the basics. They're going to be able to improve your strength, get your tendons on par, and make sure you don't get hurt. But like I said, I'm just starting up a team, so I don't have a big team right now, but it's definitely a strong one.
And just to sort of focus in on a little bit of what you said there, you want to try to find a team that's close to you, meaning geographically close, I would imagine, correct?
Geographically, yes, correct.
And again, would it be a little unorthodox to train or to be a part of a team that, I don't know, is in another state or another region of the country? Is that unusual?
Yeah, the issue with that is you can't really train hands-on week to week to week. It's one thing to maybe talk online to people to try to get a little bit of insight to what they would do, but it's another thing to train week to week and actually grab hands and pull.
Sure.
And I think that's most important. So, you can travel if you want to every week to another state, but that might be a little expensive. I just recommend.
The reason that I asked that question is because, with powerlifting, I've noticed, and strongman, and definitely bodybuilding, especially with the women division, some of the men divisions too, but there are certain really elite teams where I don't know if it's so much about training with them, but being able to say you're part of them sort of seems to open doors and carry with it a little bit of influence. I don't know if that's at all an issue in arm wrestling, but it certainly seems to be an issue in other type of strength and physique-based sports.
Right. No, I can get what you're saying, but in my eyes, the difference that I see is when you're a bodybuilder or a power lifter or compete in figure or body, whatever,
Right.
you can train by yourself at the gym. You can, use your regimen. You follow your diet, and you're going to get the results. With arm wrestling, it's a little bit different.
Hmm.
You can hit the weights all the time and you can diet all the time, but in my opinion, if you don't have the right team to train with, you're not going to be able to excel to the elite level.
Now, let me ask you a quick question too, in terms of referees go, because I asked Devin, I asked Frank, and I'm kind of interested. It seems like the the position that a lot of arm wrestlers have today, the ones that a lot, like I say that obviously with a grain of salt because I haven't spoken to that many, but the hope is for a sort of hands-off approach to reffing. Do you feel that sometimes maybe with fouls or what have you that refs could maybe I don't know, not have the greatest impact on a match? In other words, like, what's your take on that? Like, should a match stop because of a foul? I mean, I've been told that they don't stop, but I mean,
I think
what's your
it's
take on that?
very situational if a match should stop because of a foul. Uh, but, fouls are there for a certain reason. If I elbow foul and I gain some advantage and the match doesn't stop and I pin you, in WAL that would be a restart. But the issue in my eyes is if I elbow foul to gain position and now I hold you and I tire you out and then I pin you, it's a restart.
Right. So there's it sounds like there's potentially some overlap there. And switch gears a little bit and talk about social media because it seems that social media is everything. All the sports, even the main press, is looking to social media to sort of redefine its approach. Now, just looking at your Instagram here, I'm shocked. You have 85 posts, which isn't a lot. You're following 124 people, and you have over 4,000 people following you. I mean, I have to ask, what is your approach to Instagram, to Facebook, to social media? See it growing arm wrestling.
So my approach, I used to build my Instagram a lot. That was where I started, and I eventually transitioned to Facebook. But I just make sure to like the right things, to follow the right, and to try to spread my name as I can. And I end up talking to someone, hey, follow me on Instagram. You know what I mean? Um,
Mm-hmm.
at one point, about a year ago, my Instagram started gaining a lot of traction. My matches and my posts just started thousands of likes. I don't know what happened. I up on the Explore page, but I used that image and I just tried it from there. Besides that, a couple different coaches I had. Big Frank out, so I appreciated that. He got me followers, and if I know anyone else, hey, I'll shout you out for a shout out. Let's build each other. As arm wrestling goes, I think that it's untapped. Even with the WAL, I don't think that they used Instagram and Facebook enough to market, because if you have a million followers on Instagram, you just have this free way of advertising yourself. And I think that a lot of arm wrestlers need to start marketing themselves, and leagues also need to start marketing themselves better on Instagram.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, because honestly, I mean, what got me into this, and it's interesting because bodybuilding, I'm into it in the sense that I like to cover it, report it. Arm wrestling, I actually would try it. I mean, I'm six
Right.
five. I'm a tall guy. I got long arms. I don't know how successful I'd be, but I don't really care. I just want to, just try it. And I'd be like, it sounds like a lot of fun. And it's one of these sports that, I always had a preconceived notion about arm wrestling. Like you had to be like some, badass looking dude or a sailor or work in a shipyard. You know what I mean? Just be
Right.
like a monster. You know what I mean? And I mean, nothing against you, but you're a clean cut, young man. Look very respectable. You could probably break my arm off if you want to. So, it's interesting because it's a sport that could really have a lot of appeal. And I've also seen a lot of the women compete too, and some of them are just also amazing. So yeah, I definitely think social media is the way to go, and I hope the WAL and the movers and shakers in arm wrestling watch this interview, and because I mean it could really bring a lot of folks to the sport. Is there anything else you'd like to say in terms of folks that watch this interview? It's going to be promoted very aggressively on social media, and I have a feeling that the majority of the hits, believe it or not, are going to come over time. People stumbling across this interview. So what would you like to say to them?
I'd just like to recommend you check out the sport. If you haven't tried it already, find some people on Facebook, find some people on Instagram, and get involved. I think that a lot more people would fall in love with it if they gave it a try.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much
Thank you.
for pro wrestler, Florida State champion, Chan Shaw, Christian Duke, StrengthAddicts.com.